Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Andrew Mora of Mora Moto. This video is going to be about buying a motorcycle private party. I've bought thousands of motorcycles all over the US over the last decade. I'm going to go over tips that could potentially save you thousands and how to do it safely. Alright, so you're online, you have a pocket full of cash. You're looking private party to buy a motorcycle. What are the risks? What are the rewards? One of the biggest values in buying a bike with cash in the private party market, cash is king. The leverage that you have in the private market, knowing that the majority of people that buy motorcycles finance them. I own a power sports dealership. The majority of people that walk in our doors, 95% of them finance the motorcycle. What does that mean? It means that they come in, a couple $1,000 down, and they finance the difference through one of our lenders with monthly payments. A private seller is looking for a guy that has all the cash outright, ready to buy it right there and then. Private sellers generally have a clean and clear title in their name in hand, or they owe the bank and you would meet them at their bank to pay the difference. Your leverage at that point is the cash. The majority of buyers don't have it. They require financing. So knowing that you are a rare individual out in the cash market, you have leverage because once again, cash is king. So when you're looking for a motorcycle, you're not gonna pay a dealership price when you're buying with cash. That number can typically be negotiated. As you're searching for a motorcycle, keep in mind the further you're willing to travel, the better of a deal that you're likely to get. One of the risks that you face when you buy a motorcycle in the private market, no matter how nice the seller is, no matter how they shake your hand when you leave and tell you to ride safe as you leave their driveway, there's no guarantee that that motorcycle is what they say it is. It's even out of their control because it's a mechanical piece of equipment. Anything can happen once you leave. Generally, when you buy a private party, the deal is done the moment the cash is exchanged and you ride off. They call that a taillight warranty. As soon as those taillights are off his block, there's no warranty left. So that is a huge risk as you buy a motorcycle. The next day that engine pops, you can't call the private guy back and let him know what happened. Generally, they're not gonna care. Even if they do, they're not gonna cover it. That's the way the private market works. In a retail market, you have the ability of a name, a reputation, Google reviews, and a company that stands behind what they sell. If somebody bought a bike from us and the engine blew, we would actually cover that engine even if they didn't buy an extended warranty. Why? Because we have a reputation, and naturally if the engine popped within a short period of time, it could have been something pre-existing, more than likely pre-existing, and that could be something that hurts the reputation. When buying private party, make sure to ask specific questions such as, do you have a clean title in your name in hand? Has the bike ever been dropped? Are there any scratches or damage on the motorcycle? Be specific about the questions that you ask, especially if you decide to travel far. That way you know if the buyer is being honest or leading you in a direction that's gonna waste your time. You found the bike that you wanted, now you're gonna set it up. You started talking to the guy, you feel like you trust him. How do we set up buying the motorcycle? I recommend always meeting in a very public place, somewhere that's currently open, or meeting at a residential address, preferably his house. If you're meeting at his house, one of the tips that I recommend that you can use, put the guy's address or cell phone number in Google, see if everything correlates, see if the house address matches up with the guy's name on Facebook. A lot of times with public information being so easily accessible, you can find out a ton about a person just by putting their number on Google. If I'm meeting a guy at his house, I'm generally putting his address on Zillow, I'm seeing the actual value of the home, I'm seeing if it's vacant, and I'm seeing who the owner is. I can then correlate that with the phone number and or Facebook, Craigslist ad, and I puzzle that together. That way I know I have a nice, safe meetup spot when I go to meet up with the guy. Before you meet up with the guy, especially if you're traveling far, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to run a VIN check. It's vital when you buy a motorcycle to run a VIN check. You can hide a lot on the motorcycle, and running a VIN check exposes a lot of what's been recorded on the history of that motorcycle. A lot of times your state will offer a free VIN check through their website. I would recommend Googling your state and free VIN check. A lot of times it's right through the DMV. It only works for titles that are registered in that current state. So for Florida, if you type in free Florida VIN check, a couple links down, you'll see one of the links that is a DMV VIN check. You can put the title number or the VIN number in there. It'll give you information about the title, tell you if it's clean, how many owners are on the title. At that point, verify if the actual person you're meeting up with has that motorcycle in their name. That way they can sign everything they need to when you get there. So you found the bike you wanted, you talked to the guy, you trust him, you checked up the meetup spot, all is safe, you checked the VIN, all is clean, and the bike is in his name or the person whose name it's in is coming. At that point, you're ready to head to the bike. Let's make sure you have everything that you need so you're safe when you get there, and then I'll go over a checklist on what to look for when you're actually looking over the motorcycle. Todo que está nuevo, las cosas para este año 2020. ¿Quiere que nosotros demos una para usted a la casa? Okay. Shoot, that guy was riding without a helmet. Sometimes guys buy it. I told him I'd match any price online for any helmet, and he's rolling out of here, no helmet. That's scary. So when you go buy a bike private party, make sure you wear your helmet, all right? All right, so you found your motorcycle, you've checked the VIN, you've made sure that he has the title and it's in his name. You've gotten the cash out, you've inspected that his neighborhood or wherever you're meeting is a safe spot to meet. Now you're on the way to meet him. What do we do when we get to the house? How do we stay safe and ensure that the whole transaction is gonna be the safest possible? Any house that I pull onto, I always wanna make sure that I leave myself an out. And what I mean by that is, you don't wanna pull in somewhere where you have to reverse out. Reverse in so you can get in and drive out in the event of something happening. So I'm at the house. The first thing I'm gonna do is check my surroundings to make sure there's no red flags and everything seems kosher. At that point, I'm gonna let him know that I'm here. And once I see that he opens his garage door or that something happens on the house that acknowledges that he is the guy that's there and he's getting ready to meet up with us, I'm gonna get out of the car. After I get out of the car, I'm gonna make sure that the door is locked. I have my money in the truck. Whatever vehicle you're in, lock your doors, then go check out the motorcycle. The most important things now are eye contact, body language, and building rapport with the person selling the bike. At this point, you're looking to build as much trust as possible, so anything that you see or any points that you make have as much value as possible in terms of buying the bike and negotiating. Next, we're gonna go over what to look for, how to look for it, and any red flags that you actually may see as you're looking at this motorcycle. Hey, bro. Hey, how's it going? Here she is. Here looking at a 2019 Ducati V4S. Now this is a newer bike with around 1,000 miles. It has a clean title and he has it in hand. Pretty cool guy, by the way. So there are a few things that I look at on the motorcycle before I actually turn the bike on to test out all the other mechanical components. A few of the things that I'm looking at are the cosmetics. So as I approach the bike, what I look for is to make sure that the cosmetics are original OEM. Something that's very common in motorcycles are Chinese aftermarket. Now you can buy these on eBay anywhere from $300 to $700–800 for a set of fairings. These are not original fairings. They are injection molded ABS. Most of the motorcycles are made from Japan, Italy, or some other country aside from China. Chinese product, nothing against it, but it's not up to quality with what you would expect on an OEM motorcycle. So for starters, you want to make sure that the fairings are all original OEM because that holds a lot of value for the motorcycle. If you were to replace a set of fairings on a motorcycle, you can pay a couple $1,000s plus to replace all the fairings, and a lot of the stickers are actually sold separately. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at the bike. After I look at the cosmetics on the motorcycle, I start looking at other individual items specifically. There's no order on how to look at these, so whatever you feel comfortable, have at it. The first thing that I'm looking at is the tires. I look at the actual tire life. There's a tread bar indicator that will tell you how much life you actually have on the tire. There's also an actual week and a year, a manufacturing date on the tire on every DOT approved tire. So make sure you check it out, because it's recommended that any tire 5 years and older be replaced. That's a really good negotiating point and something that you can actually show him, maybe even teach another rider. Really easy, good point to negotiate on. After I look at the tires, I'm looking at the brake pads, the brake pad life. You don't need any special tools to actually check out the thickness of the pad, and you can look at it right through the wheels. So there's 2 sets of pads on the front and 1 in the rear. I'm gonna make sure that they have over half-life left, and I'm also gonna check the rotors for any kinds of bends or anything that looks odd. If you see any kind of dark spot on the rotor, that may be a hot spot. That may be something that raises a red flag. Start looking deeper into it. Make sure you take note of it when you go on your test ride. I also look at the fork seals to make sure that the actual cover is clean and crack-free, and then I make sure that the actual unit doesn't have any signs of leaking. So any signs of extra rebound. Here's a perfect example of a really nice clean fork. There's no leaking here. Nothing on the actual fork lower that shows obvious signs of it being wet. All right, so as we're looking at the components down around the front of the motorcycle, 2 really important areas to look at are the actual rim and the rotors. I'm gonna rub my finger around the actual edge of the rim to make sure there's no obvious signs of bends or cracks on the rim. I'm also gonna look for any obvious signs of damage on the rim, because in severe accidents, the rim can actually scrape the asphalt or the ground, and you'll see rash on the rim or the lower part of the fork leg, making it obvious that it's been in some type of wreck. Chain and sprocket. There's a front sprocket and a rear sprocket. You typically cannot see the front sprocket, so you're gonna have to go off of the actual rear sprocket and the condition of the chain. Now we're gonna look at the electronics on the motorcycle. I'm gonna make sure all the signals work. Left, right, the brake light by squeezing the actual lever, and foot pedal. After that, I'm gonna make sure things as simple as the horn work, the tripometer button. I'm gonna touch every button on the front to make sure that it all functions, just to make sure that I don't get home and have any surprises. One thing you're gonna wanna make sure that the key that you have works on all of the lock set. A lock set consists of 3 pieces: the actual ignition, the gas tank, and the trunk on the tail of the motorcycle. The bike should work for all 3. If it doesn't, something's been swapped, something may be up. I'm gonna point out a few obvious areas that will hit the ground first on even a light spill. These are the areas that you wanna make sure that you check out. That way you can inspect the bike perfectly so you don't get home, wash it when you're excited, and be surprised that the bike's been tipped over or even dropped while riding. I'm gonna look at the actual bar end, the lever, and the mirror. When the bike gets tipped over, even in the driveway, that's one of the first areas to actually hit the ground. So that's gonna be a spot where you wanna check first. You're also gonna want to inspect the lower fork leg, which will also touch the ground if the bike's been damaged, tipped over, or even wrecked. As I start looking further down the back of the bike, I'm gonna look at the engine casing on the motorcycle, look at the side fairings, even the belly fairings. I'm gonna keep working my way back. I'm gonna check the exhaust. The exhaust area is another area that will hit the ground first, so make sure you closely inspect that. The passenger peg, the actual rider peg, if you fold those up and you see any damage underneath it, that's another sign that the bike's been tipped over. Now we're gonna turn on the bike and we're gonna make sure that the engine sounds good and get it ready for a test ride. All right, the bike sounds really good. At this point, I'm really loving this bike. It's clean, the tires are good, the brakes, fork seals, everything I've looked over looks good on this motorcycle. I've heat cycled the motorcycle to make sure that the fan and the cooling system are functioning properly. Everything else on this bike is checked out. I'm ready to test ride it. Generally, a rule of thumb when you're test riding is that you pass the cash off to the person that owns the bike before you test ride it. So we've test rode the bike, we want it, he's got the cash, let's fill out some paperwork and get the deal done. What paperwork should you fill out? Always print a bill of sale that is recognized by your state. You can easily Google your state's name with bill of sale and search the official one that's provided by the DMV. It generally is available in a PDF file. If you're in Florida, type in Florida bill of sale and the actual form will pop up a couple links down. Really easy to print. something that you want to fill out on the motorcycle when you purchase it. That way you cover all your bases before you go to the DMV to actually register the bike. One thing that you want to make sure that you do when you're at the DMV before you register the bike, make sure that you have all of your paperwork filled out. DMVs are known to be sticklers. If you have one thing crossed out or one thing empty, they're gonna make you go fill out tons of paperwork, or even worse, they may make you fill out what's termed an affidavit of correction, where they give you a list of things that you're required to do before you get to register your bike and even tag it. So make sure that you fill out everything that you need prior to walking in there. That way you're not stuck with an affidavit of correction and a bike with no tag. So at that point, the only thing that you want to do is let the guy go over into the trunk of the bike, take his tag, or potentially any other items that he has on the bike that he's going to remove before you get riding and off to go enjoy your new motorcycle. If you're gonna strap this thing down in a trailer, you wanna make sure that you strap it down at 4 points. If you're gonna ride this motorcycle, make sure that you don't use a fictitious tag. I've learned throughout the years that if you have a fictitious tag from another motorcycle and you ride your beautiful red bike home and the old tag says that his old bike was black, at that point you can have an issue and even get a ticket or face a misdemeanor charge. So if you're gonna ride home, ride with no tag and the paperwork that shows you bought it, or even ask the actual seller to see if he'll let you borrow his. But I do not recommend riding with a fictitious tag because it's easily a telltale sign for a cop. He'll pull you over, you'll get a ticket. Not fun on your first ride on your motorcycle. So you looked over the bike, you've test ridden it, you've counted the cash, all your paperwork is complete. Congratulations, the bike is yours. I'm sure it was well deserved. I know I've covered a lot in this video, so I put together a sheet that'll help you with all the things that I look at when I buy a motorcycle as I travel across the United States. Morimoto also has over 200 motorcycles, so if you are interested in a bike, keep in mind that we offer free nationwide shipping and we really offer good, genuine products. So the last thing I want to tell you is to ride your motorcycle safely and to wear your gear. No matter what your age is, I'm sure you have many years of riding, so you don't have to get it all out today. No matter what your age is, you have many years of riding in your future. You don't have to get it all out in one day. That is a machine. It does not know you. You may love it, but it will only do what you ask it to do and what you control. So as you're riding, remember that somebody loves you, somebody cares about you, so ride with respect to the machine that you're on. When you're on a motorcycle, statistically, there's a high probability of us getting into a wreck, an accident, maybe even something fatal. So as you ride that bike, ride it responsibly. If you guys like what I put out here, please subscribe to our channel. We're a business out of Florida. We're a small business with no investors. Motorcycles are my passion, and I want to make sure that I continue to put out great content that you guys enjoy watching. If you guys have any ideas for our next video, or if you guys have any comments on something that I may have missed, please insert it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'll reply on every comment that I receive. Until next time, guys, ride safe, have fun. Talk to you then.